Hey, what's up, people? My name is Albert Huang. I'm also known as FedHex, and this is part of my journal on Floasis.net. Floasis is a group of people who do this, liquid dancing, and we usually make journal entries as to like our progress with the dance. Usually they're in text form, but I really don't like writing. I just get really critical about my writing, so I like just going off the cuff. And what's up? Today I'm going to talk to you guys about my last weekend. I did a trip to New Orleans and what I learned dancing there, or what I learned just hanging out there, I guess, mostly. That city is like crazy, by the way. I mean, like, it's off the hook. Everybody in that city is focused on one thing and one thing only, and that thing is having a good fucking time, man. Yeah, I feel like New York is about success and like progress, making yourself a better person, being fucking ruthless about who you want to be and how you want to do it. And it's great for a lot of things. But New Orleans is about having a good time and doing nothing but having a good time, figuring out how to make that world work. Of course, I was only in Bourbon Street, which is like the really touristy place, but it's just so much fun, man. We would go, yeah, we drank, as early as the earliest drink I had was like 2 p.m. But everyone was drinking all the time. I think you can get drinks like at fucking like 9 in the morning if you want to, and you can walk around on the streets with drinks in your hand. But yeah, everyone was having a good time. The music was incredible. Like it was mostly like brass bands and washboard bands and Dixie sort of music. But like everyone was just having a good time, and that's sort of like the main thing that I remembered. That like, as I was like, this dance is still like a part of my body, right? I can't go anywhere without this dance coming with me. So like, I would sort of apply this dance and be like, oh yeah, wait, first of all, I have to learn how to have a good time, because I was like always focusing on the mechanics. And so, hanging out there, we went to a few bands. One was called the Brassaholics, and they're mostly a brass band with like a drummer, a Congo guy, and somebody on guitar. And there was this old lady. There was this lady who was like maybe like 60 years old in the crowd, just like grooving out, man. She was killing it. It was basically just like her hips gyrating sort of excessively. And I was like kind of jealous, sort of in the same way that I get jealous of like really good dancers and like mechanically really fucking sick dancers. I was looking at her. All she was doing was moving her hips, and her arms were just sort of doing this. And I was like, wow, man, she is having such a good time. I don't remember. I have a hard time remembering the last time I had such a good time dancing. And then there's this like business suit white dude who's just like he was like the funniest guy, but he was also just like having a great fucking time. And I mean, I think it had to do with the environment of everyone in the place was having a good time, and they could just learn how to let loose. But that's part of dancing that I sort of lost, I guess. I grew up around the dance, and I did it because I was having a good time. And then eventually, I guess I got too mechanically minded or too focused on like improvement, that I just sort of like lose the sense of having fun. And actually, it was actually funny because I was in these clubs and everyone was just like grooving out, just like killing it. And there I was like sort of just like testing the waters with my hands, just like. I'm actually working on my Tuts mechanics, and it was just like weird because I couldn't really get down because it was just such a clash of two different vocabularies of one of me just like I don't know, being totally stupid, and then one of like serious, like I was like a robot, right? Just like meh. Anyway, but it is a part of my body, and I did bring it to the space. And while I was playing with it, like feeling like a stupid robot, like trying to deal with the two different worlds colliding, I realized that like there's something. So yeah, what I noticed when I started focusing on my liquid mechanic, what happened was I would start really tightening it all up, and I get really tight with my liquid in a way that I would wish looked cool, but I know in a way that like looks like not that cool, which is just sort of like really tight turns and like manipulations and stuff. And what happens is when I think a lot of this I attribute to the fact that I groove out with digits when I'm sitting on a train. I live in New York City and I take a train to and from work, and on the train I'm just like playing with space in front of me, but there's someone sitting like right here and someone sitting right here, right? So the space that's like here or here even, or just anything that's sort of outside of my hands isn't really my space to play with in a way. So I get to play with what I'm focusing on, and in the paradigm of liquid, right, that means I'm focusing on the liquid itself. I'm focusing on the water and not on the air around the water. And when I was in New Orleans, I realized, well, I should start focusing on the air around the water, because it really opens it up. And this is a larger metaphor that I'm going to talk about at length in this video. But focusing on what the water wants, only focusing on what the water wants and what the water needs and its volume and its gravity and how it moves through space, that gets really tight. But when you think about it in terms of what's really pretty about when you look at liquid in nature is the fact that it's interacting with the environment around it, right? Liquid is not just the fact that it's liquid, but it's like interacting with the air or interacting with rocks as it splashes against like hard things, right? So when I was in New Orleans, being around such a supportive environment of just like letting loose and having at it, I all of a sudden got to see my liquid sort of explode and get very environmental. And then I saw a lot of patterns that I really like in dancers that I like watching sort of emerge into my body. Because so the thesis there is that like dance the surface of the liquid, even if it's like these balls that are that you're playing with. It could be like a liquid in outer space, as long as there's an air atmosphere around it, right? So that it can travel through space. But it does have to travel through space, right? It's this contextual, like, spatial space that we're working, the spatial space that we're working with. Smart. But but yeah, once you can contextualize your liquid or your tutting or whatever, and the same thing with tutting, I realized because I've been playing with it in a way that was like me controlling this compact square, right, and then moving the square around with my attention, and really what's going on is that this square has to be contextualized with the space around my body. Once the space is square, then it makes everything so much easier. And all of this opened up my awareness to not just the space that is in my hands or in the periphery of my hands, but in the space around the whole room, right? The whole room is related to what's going on with me, and this is something that I'm borrowing from theater. That in theater you're dancing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just going off on a stupid tangent, but in theater you dance on stage and you have a stage presence, right? And it's not so much about like all the intricate things that you're doing in your hands. That's like more of a film thing. It's more about like how you walk from like point A to point B, like what sort of arc you take, or like what you're looking at while you're doing it, or what your body language is, and how it relates to all the things around you. So context is king here, as many people always say. And I'm gonna pause this and re-record so that I can get it onto YouTube. So.